Rain slammed against the tall glass windows of the Parker and Low skyscraper as Emily sprinted through the lobby, clutching a soaked folder to her chest. Her shoes slipped slightly on the polished floor, and the security guard chuckled softly. "First day, huh?" he said, scanning her badge. She smiled nervously, brushing away the rain from her forehead. "Is it that obvious?" It was her first day as an intern in one of New York's biggest investment firms, and she'd already been late. But inside her heart was burning excitement, a dream finally unfolding. She had grown up watching people in power suits stride across Wall Street, and she promised herself one day she'd walk among them. When she reached the 22nd floor, her breath caught in awe. The office smelled of expensive perfume and ambition. Rows of sleek desks, bright screens, and a skyline view that looked like success itself. And then she met him, Mr. Carter. "Emily, right?" His voice was calm, smooth, confident. He extended a hand. "Welcome to the team." Carter was everything she admired. Sharp, respected, effortlessly charming. Rumor had it that he'd once turned a failing company into $1 million brand in 6 months. To Emily, he was more than a mentor. He was the model of who she wanted to become. "You'll work directly with me," he said. "Let's see what you're made of." Those words fueled her for weeks. Emily poured herself into every project, staying late, researching market trends, running reports even when nobody asked. Carter noticed. He often leaned over her desk, his tone soft but precise. "You have a rare mind, Emily. Don't waste it on small dreams." She'd smile, grateful, unaware those words would later echo in her nightmares. One Friday evening, Carter handed her a file. "We're pitching to the board next week. I want fresh ideas. Think big, disruptive, something that will blow their minds." She worked through the weekend, skipping meals and sleep, building something extraordinary, a new client strategy that could triple the company's revenue. When she finally showed Carter her model, his eyes lit up. "This," he whispered, tapping the pages. "This could change everything." That Monday, the boardroom glowed under golden light. Emily sat quietly in the corner as Carter presented his new strategy. Her heart pounded as slide after slide mirrored her work. Every line, every graph, her words, her ideas spoken in his voice. For a moment, she thought he'd call her name. He didn't. The room erupted in applause. "Brilliant work, Carter," one of the directors said. "This is the kind of innovation we need." Emily sat frozen. Carter caught her gaze across the room and smiled faintly, a knowing, warning smile. She felt her throat tighten as if invisible hands gripped it. After the meeting, she confronted him. "You took everything," she said, her voice trembling. "That was my work." He leaned back in his chair, unbothered. "You're an intern, Emily. You don't own company ideas." "That's not fair," she whispered. "Fair," he laughed. "You're ambitious, I like that. But learn something. This world rewards power, not effort. You're talented, but talent doesn't mean you get credit." Her eyes watered. "You promised to mentor me." "I did. And I just taught you your first real lesson." She stormed out, fighting back tears. That night, she couldn't sleep. The betrayal cut deep, not just because he stole her idea, but because he'd made her believe she mattered. The following week, she noticed strange glances from coworkers. Conversations stopped when she entered rooms. Files she'd worked on disappeared. When she asked Carter about it, he smirked. "Word spreads fast here. You should be careful who you accuse." 2 days later, HR called her in. "Emily," the woman began carefully, "we've received reports about unprofessional behavior and confidential data leaks. We have to terminate your internship." She couldn't believe it. "I didn't do anything wrong." The woman sighed, eyes cold behind her glasses. "You've already been warned. You can collect your things." Her body went numb. As she packed her small desk, her notebook, her lucky pen, the photo of her and her mom, Carter walked past, whispering, "Don't take it personally. It's just business." Tears blurred her vision. She wanted to scream, to expose him, but she knew no one would believe her. He had power. She was just another intern. Outside, the city roared with indifference. People hurried by as she stood under the rain again, clutching the same folder that once carried her dreams. She found a park bench and sat there for hours, the cold biting through her clothes. Her phone buzzed, her mother calling. She wiped her tears and forced her voice to sound calm. "Hey, Mom. How's work, sweetheart?" "It's good," she lied. "Really good." Her mother's voice softened. "I'm proud of you, Emily. Your father would be too." She hung up and broke down. For the first time in her life, she felt truly invisible. That night, in her tiny apartment, she stared at her laptop screen, at job listings she couldn't qualify for and bills she couldn't pay. Then she saw a quote on social media. "When you feel buried, remember, you are a seed." Something stirred inside her. The anger that once suffocated her began to feel different, sharper, more focused. "Fine," she whispered to herself. "If no one's going to give me a chance, I'll create one." She opened a blank document and typed, "New business concept." Her hands trembled, not from fear this time, but from the quiet spark of determination being reborn. And somewhere across the city, in a penthouse office, Carter toasted his success, unaware that the girl he'd betrayed was already planting the seed that would one day bury his empire. The next few weeks blurred into one long nightmare. Emily's savings vanished faster than she could think. Rent was due, and job applications piled up with no responses. Every "we'll get back to you" sounded like another rejection letter. Each morning, she'd dress up, submit her resume, smile politely, and return home with nothing. The silence of her apartment felt heavier each day, pressing on her chest like invisible weight. She tried to keep herself busy, volunteering for small projects online, writing cold emails to companies, hoping someone, anyone, would give her a chance. But no one did. One evening, after her electricity was cut off, she sat in the dark, lit only by the dull glow of her phone screen. A message popped up, a reminder from her mother. "Just checking in. Don't forget to rest, my love." Emily's eyes burned. She typed back, "I'm fine, Mom." Then she threw the phone aside and buried her face in her hands. That night, she opened her laptop again and stared at the blank document titled "New Business Concept." The cursor blinked, as if mocking her. "What am I even doing?" she muttered. But she remembered Carter's smirk, the way he said, "The world rewards power, not effort." That sentence replayed like a challenge. Power, she thought. If that's what it takes, then I'll build it. She began to write. Her fingers moved slowly at first. Scattered thoughts about ethics, innovation, human-driven marketing. She didn't know where it was heading, but she couldn't stop. For the next few days, Emily transformed her pain into obsession. She'd walk to the public library every morning, her laptop tucked under her arm, and spend hours researching, learning, sketching plans. She devoured books on business strategy, psychology, branding, anything she could find. The librarians began to recognize her. "Still at it?" one asked one day, smiling kindly. "Still trying," Emily said. Weeks turned into months. She got a part-time job as a cafe attendant to keep the lights on. During the day, she wiped tables and made coffee for people who didn't even look her in the eye. At night, she became a different person. The quiet builder, the dreamer reborn. One late evening, as she scrolled through startup forums, she stumbled upon an online entrepreneurship competition. The prize was small, $10,000 in funding, but it felt like destiny calling. The theme, innovation for a better tomorrow. She smiled. "All right," she whispered. "Let's see how far I can go." Emily poured her soul into the pitch. She didn't just want to make money. She wanted to build a company that valued people over profit. Everything Parker and Lowe never did. She called her idea NovaPath, a business consultancy for small brands that focused on authentic, ethical growth. The submission deadline was in 3 days. She barely slept, running on instant coffee and adrenaline. On the final night, her laptop froze and her heart dropped. "No, no, please," she cried, slamming the keys. The screen flickered, then went black. Her files were gone. She sank to the floor, tears streaming down her face. "I can't keep losing," she whispered. "I just can't." But something inside her refused to quit. She took a deep breath, wiped her face, and started again, from scratch. By sunrise, her eyes were red, her hands trembling, but her submission was done. Days later, an email arrived. "Congratulations, Emily Carter. You've been selected as one of the top 10 finalists." Her breath caught. Wait, Carter? The system had autofilled her mentor's last name from an old form. She laughed bitterly. Even now, I can't escape that name. Still, it didn't matter. She had a chance. The presentation day came. It was a virtual event, and Emily sat in her tiny apartment, wearing a borrowed blazer. When her turn came, she took a deep breath and said, "Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Emily, and I used to believe that success meant being the loudest in the room. Now I know it's about creating something that speaks even when you're silent." Her voice trembled at first, then steadied. She spoke about honesty, rebuilding trust in business, and helping small entrepreneurs grow without losing their values. Her words weren't flashy, but they came from somewhere real, the bruises of her journey. When she finished, there was a moment of silence. Then, the chat exploded with messages. "Inspiring! Beautiful idea! She's onto something." Emily didn't win first place. She came third, but one of the judges, a quiet older woman named Laura Miles, messaged her privately after the event. "I believe in NovaPath," Laura wrote. "Let's talk." Emily's hands shook as she read it. Could this be real? Laura turned out to be an angel investor, known for supporting underdog startups. Over coffee, she listened as Emily shared everything, from her betrayal to her dreams. "You have something powerful," Laura said. "You're not chasing greed. You're chasing purpose. That's rare." With Laura's mentorship and $25,000 in seed funding, NovaPath was born. Emily rented a small co-working space, hired one freelancer, and worked 18-hour days. She learned everything: design, marketing, client pitching, by trial and error. There were failures, countless ones, deals that fell apart, clients who ghosted, nights she doubted if she was cut out for this. But she also began to see results. One satisfied client turned into 3, then 5. 2 years later, NovaPath wasn't a dream anymore. It was a company with real employees, real offices, and real growth. Emily often looked out her new office window, watching the city she once feared swallow her whole. Now, it seemed smaller, almost conquerable. But just as things began to stabilize, her past came knocking. One morning, she received a call from an unknown number. The voice on the other end was painfully familiar. "Emily," Carter said smoothly. "It's been a while." Her stomach tightened. "What do you want?" "I've been following your company," he said. "Impressive growth. You've built something solid." "I built what you tried to destroy." He laughed softly. "Still emotional, I see. Listen, Parker & Lowe is facing a downturn. We're exploring partnerships. I think NovaPath could benefit from our reach." Emily couldn't believe what she was hearing. "You want me to work with you?" "Not work for us. Work with us. There's profit in reconciliation." She was silent for a moment, then said quietly, "You taught me something, Carter. You said the world rewards power, not effort. But here's what you missed. Integrity builds power that lasts. You should have learned that." And she hung up. As she leaned back in her chair, a slow smile crept onto her face. For the first time, she realized she wasn't running from her past anymore. She was standing above it. The months that followed were some of the most intense in Emily's life. NovaPath was growing faster than she had ever imagined. Clients were lining up, investors were calling, and the company's reputation for integrity and results spread through word of mouth. But growth came with new kinds of storms. Emily had to learn to lead people, not just ideas. Her small team became a bustling office of 30. Designers, strategists, marketers, all looking to her for direction. Some mornings she woke up terrified, wondering if she was pretending to be a CEO instead of becoming one. Still, she pushed through the fear. Her mornings began before sunrise. She'd walk into the office with her coffee, smile at her team, and dive into meetings, emails, calls, strategy sessions, everything. But beneath the confidence she projected, the weight of responsibility gnawed at her. One mistake, one bad quarter, and it could all crumble. One afternoon, her assistant, Naomi, rushed into her office. "Emily, you need to see this." Naomi handed her a printed document, a leaked proposal. It was NovaPath's confidential marketing strategy, but it wasn't coming from NovaPath. It had been rebranded under Parker and Lowe Consulting. Emily's heart sank. She read through the pages, her mind racing. The format, the language, even her original pitch lines, all stolen. She slammed the document down. "Carter," she whispered. The betrayal she thought she had buried came rushing back like fire. He wasn't just trying to compete. He was trying to erase her again. For a few moments, she sat frozen. The office noise outside faded into silence. Then she stood, her hands trembling but her eyes fierce. "Naomi, gather the team. Emergency meeting." Within minutes, the team filled the conference room. Emily stood at the head of the table, holding the printed file. "Someone tried to steal our ideas," she began, her voice steady but low. "They want to take what we built and twist it, but they made one mistake." She paused, scanning her team's faces. "They underestimated what we're made of." There was silence. Then a murmur of determination spread across the room. "What do we do?" someone asked. Emily took a deep breath. "We innovate. We move faster, smarter. If they're copying us, it means they're behind us. Let's make sure they stay there." That night, she stayed in the office long after everyone left. Rain tapped against the window as she stared at the city lights below. Her reflection looked back, tired but unbroken. Her phone buzzed. It was a message from Laura, her mentor. "He's testing your spirit again. Don't fight the same way you did before. Outthink him." Emily smiled faintly. Laura was right. Carter played dirty, but she didn't have to. Over the next few weeks, she channeled all her energy into building something even better. A new division of NovaPath called Pulse Analytics, a tech-driven platform that gave small businesses data tools usually reserved for corporations. It was bold, risky, and far beyond her comfort zone. But it was hers. Her team worked tirelessly, often sleeping in the office. Emily was right there with them, eating takeout noodles at midnight, coding prototypes, reviewing campaigns. The energy in the room was electric, a mix of exhaustion and faith. On the day of the launch, she stood in front of her employees, looking at the new logo glowing on the projector screen. "We started with nothing," she said softly. "Now we're building something that's changing the way people grow their dreams. Whatever happens today, remember this. We did it with honesty." The launch went viral. Within 24 hours, Pulse Analytics was trending on LinkedIn and Twitter. Dozens of small businesses signed up. News outlets picked up the story. Young CEO builds ethical tech solution for entrepreneurs. Carter's copied strategy didn't stand a chance. Within months, his firm began to lose major clients, many of whom switched to NovaPath. Emily didn't celebrate out loud. She just sat in her office one evening, closed her eyes, and exhaled. The war wasn't won with revenge. It was won with resilience. Still, success came with a cost. One morning, during a live investor call, Emily suddenly felt dizzy. Her vision blurred, and her voice faltered mid-sentence. The screen went dark as she fainted. When she woke up in the hospital, Laura was sitting by her bed, holding her hand. "You've been pushing too hard," Laura said gently. "I can't stop now," Emily murmured weakly. "Everything depends on me." Laura shook her head. "That's your problem, Emily. You think leadership means carrying the world. It doesn't. It means building people who can carry it with you." The words hit deep. For so long, Emily had been running from her failures, her betrayals, her fears. She built NovaPath not just as a company, but as armor. And now that armor was cracking. When she returned to work, she called a team meeting, not to assign tasks, but to listen. She asked every employee about their struggles, their ideas, their dreams. One of her youngest analysts said quietly, "You taught us that failure doesn't define us, Emily. You showed us that truth wins. Don't forget that applies to you, too." That night, Emily walked home under the quiet hum of the city lights. For the first time in years, she didn't feel like she was running from anything. She was walking towards something. Peace. But destiny wasn't done testing her yet. A few months later, NovaPath received a massive acquisition offer from a global firm, $80 million. It could change everything. But there was a catch. They wanted control, and they wanted her to step down as CEO after the merger. Her board was divided. Some said it was the smart move. Others said it betrayed what NovaPath stood for. Emily spent the night in her office, staring at the offer letter. Her reflection in the glass window looked older, wiser, and haunted by memory. She could almost hear Carter's voice. Power over people. And then Laura's, purpose over power. In that silence, she made her decision. The next morning, she walked into the boardroom, her expression calm but resolute. "We're not selling NovaPath," she said. "We didn't build this to cash out. We built it to change something, and I'm not done yet." The room was silent for a long moment. Then, one by one, her team began to clap. Emily didn't know what the future held. More challenges, more storms, maybe even more betrayals. But she knew one thing for certain. She was no longer the broken intern they once dismissed. She was the CEO who refused to trade her soul for success. 2 years later, the world knew her name. Emily Carter, founder and CEO of NovaPath Technologies, listed among Fortune's top 50 most influential business leaders of the year. The headlines glimmered across the digital skyline. For most people, she was a symbol of innovation and resilience. For those who knew her story, she was living proof that betrayal couldn't break a determined heart. But success hadn't made her arrogant. It made her grounded. She still walked through the office each morning, greeting her team by name. She still worked late nights sometimes, not because she had to, but because she loved building things that mattered. And sometimes, when she looked out at the skyline from her corner office, she still saw flashes of that scared intern who once cried in a bathroom stall, wondering if she'd ever be good enough. One evening, as the golden light faded through the tall glass windows, Naomi walked into her office holding a letter. "This came for you," she said. Emily glanced at the envelope. Thick paper, elegant handwriting. She opened it. It was from Carter & Lowe Consulting. Her stomach twisted. She hadn't heard that name in years. Inside was a short letter, written in neat cursive. "Emily, I've been following your success. Congratulations. You've built something remarkable. I lost everything. My firm went under. My partners left. My reputation's gone. I guess I had this coming. I've learned what you already knew. That winning at the expense of others is not success. It's slow destruction. I wanted to say I'm sorry." "Carter?" Emily read it twice, her emotions swirling. Anger, relief, and something softer. She leaned back in her chair, the faintest smile curving her lips. Naomi watched her carefully. "You okay?" Emily nodded. "Yes." He finally learned the lesson. "What are you going to do?" "Forgive him," she said quietly. "Not for him. For me." She folded the letter neatly and placed it in a drawer. That night, Emily went home, cooked herself a simple meal, and sat by the window with a cup of tea. The city below buzzed with life, the same city that had once chewed her up and spat her out. But tonight, it looked different. It looked like home. Weeks later, she was invited to give a keynote speech at a global business conference in San Francisco. The hall was filled with hundreds of young entrepreneurs, executives, and dreamers. She stood on stage, calm and radiant, wearing a navy blue suit. Cameras flashed. "When I started," she began, "I was an intern. I believed hard work would always be enough, until I learned that some people would rather take shortcuts, even if it meant breaking others to get ahead." She paused, looking around the audience. "I was betrayed. I was humiliated. I lost everything I thought I was. But in that loss, I found something stronger. Purpose. You see, every betrayal is an invitation to rise, to rebuild, to prove that integrity still wins." The audience was silent, some nodding, others tearing up. "I built my company not to get revenge, but to build something that outlasts the people who tried to destroy me. And guess what? It worked, because your pain can become your greatest innovation. Your setback can become your story of redemption." Applause erupted. Cameras clicked. Emily smiled, but her eyes glistened. She wasn't performing. She was remembering. After the speech, dozens of young professionals gathered around her, asking for advice, sharing their dreams. One young woman, about 22, said softly, "I'm an intern too, and sometimes I feel invisible." Emily placed a hand on her shoulder. "Then remember this," she said. "Invisibility is your training ground. The world might not see you yet, but that doesn't mean you're not becoming." That moment would later go viral. The intern who became the inspiration. Months later, NovaPath reached a milestone no one had predicted, a Fortune 500 ranking. It wasn't just the technology or strategy that made it great. It was the story behind it. Her board threw a celebration at a grand hall overlooking the city. But Emily arrived late, dressed simply, without the pomp or entourage most CEOs flaunted. When she took the stage, she raised a glass and said, "We didn't just build a company, we built a legacy of second chances." Her employees cheered, flashbulbs popped, music played. But amidst all the celebration, she caught herself whispering, almost to the night sky, "Dad, I made it." Her father had passed when she was in college, a quiet man who taught her the value of honesty and grit. She wished he could see her now. The next morning, she sat alone in her office, no cameras, no crowd, and opened her journal. To anyone reading this, if you've been betrayed, don't let it break you. Let it build you. If you've been underestimated, thank them. They just lowered their guard. And if you're still at the bottom, remember, every giant was once a struggler in silence. Keep moving, one step at a time. Emily. As she closed the journal, sunlight streamed through the blinds, painting her desk in gold. The phone buzzed. Another investor meeting, another opportunity, another day of impact. She smiled faintly and whispered to herself, "Let's get to work." Because for Emily, success was never the destination. It was the redemption of every broken beginning. If Emily's story inspired you, remember, your pain can become your power too. Every betrayal, every setback, every no can be the beginning of something bigger. So don't stop believing, don't stop building. Subscribe to Fortune Rise Stories for more powerful true stories of redemption, ambition,